in a museum collection, forgotten for decades, scientists found something extraordinary. Tiny bones, barely a few centimeters long. At first, no one paid attention, but those bones belonged to an unborn child that lived 55,000 years ago. And what it revealed may explain why an entire human species disappeared. Before we go further, I can see many of you watching these deep dives, and I genuinely appreciate it. But only about 1% of viewers are subscribed. If you enjoy uncovering hidden truths about human history, subscribe and tell me what topic I should explore next. Back to the story. This details emerged in the National Geographic news article a few weeks back. These bones were discovered between 1968 and 1970 in a cave in southern Germany. At the time, they seemed insignificant, too small, too fragmented. They were placed in storage and largely ignored. It wasn't until decades later that scientists realized what they were looking at: a Neanderthal fetus, one of the rarest discoveries in human evolution. Fetal remains almost never survive. They are fragile, incomplete, and extremely difficult to study. This one had no teeth, no complete skull, and very little usable DNA. In fact, only a tiny fraction of the bone yielded genetic material. But that small amount was enough. Scientists extracted mitochondrial DNA from the fetus, and what they found was unexpected. This child did not belong to the final Neanderthal population, the one that eventually went extinct. It belonged to an older lineage, a branch of Neanderthals that existed earlier in time. This allowed researchers to compare generations. And that's when the real discovery emerged. Neanderthals didn't disappear suddenly. Around 65,000 years ago, something critical happened. Neanderthal populations didn't just decline, they collapsed inward. Scientists call this a genetic bottleneck. But here's what that actually means. Imagine an entire population shrinking so drastically that only a small number of individuals remain, not across the world, but clustered in isolated pockets. Fewer people means fewer genetic combinations. Fewer genetic combinations means higher risk of disease, lower fertility, and less ability to adapt. This wasn't extinction. This was weakening. Slow, invisible, dangerous. And the most unsettling part? By the time we notice a bottleneck in history, it's already too late. Now layer that decline with the Ice Age. Massive glaciers began advancing across Europe. Forests disappeared. Animal populations shifted. Food became unpredictable. Neanderthals were pushed into what scientists call glacial refuges, small habitable zones surrounded by hostile terrain. Imagine living in a world where your entire population is confined to a shrinking space with fewer resources and no way to expand. Every winter becomes a test. Every injury becomes a risk. Every birth becomes uncertain. And every death matters more than it should. Because when numbers are already low, you don't recover easily. You accumulate loss. Here's the part most people misunderstand. Neanderthals didn't lose to humans overnight. They were already weakened, already reduced, already fragile. By the time modern humans spread across Europe, Neanderthals were surviving, not thriving. This 55,000-year-old child tells a quiet story, not of a sudden extinction, but of a slow decline, a reminder that species don't always disappear in dramatic moments. Sometimes, they fade long before anyone notices. If you want more hidden truths about human history, follow 3 Unplugged for more.